Hello there YouTubers, my name's Charlie and welcome once again to this series, Inmates of the World, a series in which I correspond to prisoners from all around the globe and I read aloud their replies I receive to you. I'm doing this because I have over 20 years experience working in mental health and because I'm currently studying forensic psychiatry, so I like to analyse these letters from a forensic psychiatric perspective. Now today I'll be reading you aloud the second letter that I've received from the late British serial killer Dennis Nielsen. If you'd like to watch the first episode of my interactions with him, you can do, which is episode 3 of Inmates of the World. I don't feel the need to explain too much about the history of Dennis Nielsen as I did so in the previous episode about him, episode 3. So we'll go straight on to the letter itself. This letter was sent to me, as all of his letters were sent to me from Full Sutton Prison in England. I'll show you this letter here. There's the letter. If you'd like to screenshot it or zoom in, I'll add an enlarged photograph of it for you there. There's nothing on the reverse. Once again, Dennis Nielsen has typewritten this letter, which is quite unusual for an inmate. Now, this letter goes way back to the 27th of January 2004, and I shall begin the letter. Dear Charlie, thank you for your letter of the 15th of January. Apologies accepted regarding the elusiveness and patronising notions. It's just that too much unsolicited mail becomes a bit of a burden at times, when a lot of folks don't even bother to enclose a stamped addressed envelope. I don't have a special postage allowance from the prison service. I have to buy all my stamps on a meagre prison wage of £15 a week. Well, that's got that out of the way. These days I don't really have a lot of small talk. Heard most of it 100 times before. That's what encroaching old age does to one. However, I am not yet a grumpy old man. You seem to have embarked on a good idea, getting away from the pressure of the city with your new post as groom. Sounds better than stable hand. This at the time I informed Dennis Nielsen that my current employment, or at the time, was indeed that of a stable hand. I was grooming the horses, feeding horses, leading them in and out of the stables and mucking out the stables, etc. Well, if you like horses, then you are more than halfway there in job satisfaction. I like critters of all descriptions. They are so self-contained and seem, for the most part, to be content with their lot. When humans take charge of them, then they have a duty to treat them with kindness and respect. The threat doesn't usually come from dumb animals, but from dumb humans. Yes, I served my chef's apprenticeship at the Army School of Catering from 1961 to 1964. I was in professional catering for over 11 years of my life. I am attuned to the hectic pace of the kitchen. I don't really have a favourite dish, however I have grown a fondness for curries. Ask me right now what I would want to eat and I'd tell you a big juicy fried steak, the reason being that I have not had one for over 21 years. I note what you say concerning your son's MMR inoculations. This was another issue that I discussed. On the best credible medical evidence available, I think you have taken the right decision on the MMR triple vaccine. Yes, in medicine there is always a maverick opinion, and from this comes the autism scare. I think you have done the right thing according to the best evidence available. There seems more risk from not having it than from having it. You ask about my politics. Well, I have never been a member of any political party or political group. Being a loner, I tend to be an independent who decides on the issues themselves, free from having to toe the party line on any given topic. I think about the issue at hand and decide on the issue. A man, woman, should not keep his or her conscience in someone else's pocket. I know there is a contradiction in that one needs in our system to form a party in order to get that necessary weight of support in order to form a government. Not for outsiders like me, although it might suit majority opinion. I guess that whatever I am certainly not a Tory, I know that much. Most television these days, with notable exceptions, is all 95% shimmer and only 5% substance. I suggest you keep Fred on a tin of pedigree chum mixed with bonio biscuits for a good balanced doggy diet. My dog at the time was a wonderful Labrador retriever called Fred, who's sadly no longer with us. We might destroy our kids with junk food, but not our best friends. Regards, Des Nilsson. And signed. So this is the second letter I received from Dennis Nilsson. Of course, I was aware that he served in the Army School of Catering. It's very interesting that he seems to have far more compassion and empathy for animals than he did with human beings, certainly in terms of his victims. It's interesting that he tends to maintain the use of a typewriter rather than handwriting, as though, as I said before, he wishes to maintain a certain degree of intellectualism and a kind of almost like an intellectual one-upmanship on other inmates, as if to suggest I'm intellectually superior to you because I do things in the proper sense. There's also some interesting things. He puts a hell of a lot of words into quote marks, referring obviously to other people or to other terms. The fact that he mentions 95% of television is shimmer and only 5% substance suggests that he is a well-educated and learned individual who is only interested in garnering true intelligence rather than watching fiction. He displays a very sort of diverse vocabulary. This issue of his postage allowance, how he only earns a meagre prison wage of £15 a week. That is almost like a kind of a plea, a subconscious, underhanded plea for sympathy. I also feel it also entirely ignores the fact that his victims can't even work at all because they're no longer alive due to his actions. There seems to be a whole obliviousness or ignorance of that. I was a very young man when I received this letter. I was only around, I would have been 23, so I was working as a stable hand at the time. It's interesting that you mentioned that he's not had a steak for over 21 years. Again, it also seems to be some kind of self-obsession, that there's no regard for the fact that his victims are no longer able to eat anything. He comes across as rather self-obsessed, sporadically, I would say, with his interaction. But that's pretty much it for this episode. Please stay around for the next one. Please like, share and subscribe to this channel. And as always, love each other and look after each other.